My son was killed in Taji, Iraq, while serving his second tour. It was June 23rd, 2007. We got notified that our son was killed by an IED, along with 3 other soldiers and an interpreter. Our son's body came home about a week and a half later at the Bangor International Airport. Some of my family members went down. We were standing shoulder to shoulder. We saw the small commercial plane with the door open, and a few minutes later they rolled his casket out with the American flag on it, and it really hit home. That was our son in that casket, and they lowered the body down, put it in the hearse. It was the very last hunt when he was on leave. My son Luke, myself and Joel went bear hunting. I was the one who goofed. I ended up shooting a bear, hit it in the shoulder. We didn't recover the animal. That was the most memorable hunt I had. It was a special moment, that not knowing that it was going to be the last time we'd hunt together. And to this day, it's something that I always think about during bear season. After Joel was killed, there was where he sat last. I made myself walk in the trail. That was 2007. There's an old wooden tree stand set under a big hemlock tree, and I picked it up, leaned it up against the tree, and climbed in and cried like a baby. That was the last place my son sat during our hunt. I grew up hunting with my dad and my siblings, and loved the outdoors, always have. But now hunting brings a whole new perspective. It's very healing to be out in the woods, just to sit, whether I harvest an animal or not. It brings peace. And there's something special about that, listening to the birds and watching some of the smaller critters running around. And I know if it helps me, it's going to help our men and women who serve our country, for our veterans, because my son Joel loved to hunt and fish, and I thought, what better way to bring these men and women that have sacrificed so much through something my son loved to do. I've had men come up to me and say, thank you, you've saved my life. And when you hear that, it really hits home. And that's what we're about, is saving lives.
Getting veterans out into the outdoors and learning how to hunt is important for their, for their mind, to recover from things that they may or may not have done, in their time that they served. Why do I think that's important? To me, it's a process. The getting your mind right, understanding the environment that you're going out into, applying for a tag, scouting for animals, prepping your gear, going out into the wilderness, being safe, and ethically taking an animal, and then coming home and partaking of that animal is all part of the process. What it does for veterans, in my view, is it gives them purpose. It gives them something to work through and show themselves that no matter what they've experienced in their time in the military, that they can accomplish anything that they want, to include working through the problems that's hindering them now that they're out of the military.
I went to college, I joined the Army. That of course kept me away from Alaska the whole time that I was in the military. I couldn't hunt caribou, I couldn't hunt bears. I kind of just always felt out of place in the duty stations that I was at. I of course had a lot of good and bad experiences like anybody else in the military, and some of the bad things I would have otherwise fallen back on, being in the outdoors and doing what I like to do, but those things weren't accessible at that time. So it was like I played catch up when I got home, just really immersed myself in caribou and moose hunting and bear hunting, and I kind of needed that part to be healthy and well. It was like a runner that hasn't been able to run, or like someone that loves books that couldn't read. It just felt like there was just something about my makeup, my design, that was missing that whole time.
And hunting camp, to me, is a great way to have therapy without calling it therapy. You can sit around a fire and those walls and those barriers tend to break down. And what ends up happening is you start to talk to each other about things, and veterans have a knack for opening up to other veterans, and you can share stories or events that may have happened in your time, whether it was in combat or whether it was just in training or whether it was just the day-to-day minutia of being in the military, because it's tough. Life in the military can be extremely tough. It can be tough on the individual, and it can be tough on the individual's family.
So in 2009, my late husband was killed in action while we were in the Army together. Everything that I had been through up to that point started to kind of like muddle up my senses and my emotions, and everything sort of got twisted and kind of jumbled up. So I moved back home with my kids after the military and after Justin died, and then kind of stayed in the field for, well, the last like 10 years now. And so when I would be outside, and when I would, even if it wasn't pursuing game per se, even if it was just sitting in the woods, while I was in those experiences, my senses were clear. I felt like physically right. Like I felt like everything, like my ears worked better and my nose worked better and I could see better. Like everything was so primal and so, natural, and just felt so biologically sound. And then emotionally, that intense range of emotions that you feel through hunting, those emotions felt just as true hunting as my senses felt after trauma. It just clears everything up. I mean, it's like a decongestant for everything biologically and mentally.
And in hunting camp, it's just kind of an opportunity for people to lower their guard and get some therapy around the campfire that they may not get when they're back home doing their 9-to-5 job. If I was to come across a fellow veteran that was struggling, that's my way of helping them out, is showing them that there's so much more out there to be excited about in life than to just dwell on some of the things that might be negative in their life. And for me, hunting is one of those processes.
Anytime that I have hunted with veterans, I have found that the magic happens more in the in-between moments. It allows for a little more exploration of things they wouldn't normally talk about with their husbands or their wives or their kids. It could be 5 minutes into morning coffee and I suddenly want to tell a story that otherwise could have taken a year in therapy to get to. I think about who I would be if I hadn't found peace through hunting. And that is not the person that I would have ever wanted to be, the path that I could have gone. I mean, no one in the military is immune from knowing people that have taken their lives. And anyway, so it's I'm just glad that's not me, which sounds kind of selfish, but I'm glad that's not me. I'm glad I found what I needed to be healthy, and I just, it makes me sad to think about how many people try to do it differently and don't come out on the right way of that. So, so that's the thing.